everyone, I'm Janice Wood. Welcome to Senior Citizens Forum presented by Benefits for You 2 Insurance Services. And at Benefits for You 2 Insurance Services, our specialty is Medicare insurance, and we do health insurance. So if you know anyone that's confused with all the crazy commercials that are out there, the emails that are coming in, information coming in the mail, it's not open enrollment time, but if they have questions about their benefits, please have them give me a call, or if someone is turning 65, I love to help them through the confusing world of Medicare. But today, I have Justin back again for our new season of Senior Citizens Forum. And in the past, Justin has, we've talked about many different subjects. Justin is a farmer's insurance agent with his own brokerage group out in San Juan Capistrano area.
Yep.
And he's so knowledgeable about so many different types of property and casualty insurance. So that would be like your automobile insurance, your property, like if you own your own home, even renter's insurance comes underneath that. And Justin and I did a really fun last year, a fun
podcast
viewing together when we were talking about, do you have the right kind of insurance? Is, you know, what you are, do you have the right premium? And I personally believe it's not the premium you should be looking at. You should be looking at to make sure the insurance that you have covers the assets that you have. The low premium may not cover all those assets, which leads me into what we're going to talk about. What seniors do is that we like to go out and we like to buy toys and they have to be insured.
Yeah.
Okay. So those toys can be from what Justin can help you with, can be from that motorhome that you want to take that trip across the North American continent with. Okay?
Yeah, the national parks, it's very common.
All the wonderful national parks. To remember when you were 25, early 30s, you didn't have a family yet, and you were out on that motorcycle. And guess what? Those motorcycles from way back then are not the same as they are now. So even though you think you're experienced, the motorcycles now have more power, and there's just a lot more to riding them than there was 40 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And one of the subjects that I had fun talking to Justin about the other day is a boat, I've done a lot of sailing in my lifetime, but just think about all the different types of water boats that are out there. From that little dinghy that you take and go out and you're rowing around to, I can't remember that, like a single little canoe where they go kayaking. But Justin was telling me that he's had many claims from people in small boats getting hurt. So my thing, if you have a small boat like a kayak, or you have that big gorgeous yacht, okay, you still have to have the right amount of insurance. If you have that yacht, you don't want to run into that dinghy that's out there.
Or vice versa.
Or vice versa, but you still need to have the insurance. So Justin, how are you doing?
Doing well, thank you for having me.
Yeah, this is fun.
Yeah, it is.
And this is my first live show that I'm not doing on Zoom.
That's right.
So
yeah,
this is really exciting.
I feel very honored. Thank you.
Well, yeah, so this is very honored, and trying to get all this together is not as easy as it seems.
Right. Right.
Yeah. So,
but I think we got a good system.
So yeah, I think we're getting it.
Yeah.
Okay. So tell us about, if I was to go buy an RV, or I was going to lease an RV for a certain time.
Okay.
Okay, because sometimes maybe you don't need to actually buy that RV.
That so now leasing an RV, that's an interesting one. So
Okay.
So with your auto insurance, that does not cover big vehicles. So it would not cover an RV unless you have some sort of endorsement in place. So there are a few companies, Farmers being one of them, where you can add, and it's only like 10, 15 bucks. It's nothing, but you can add an endorsement to your auto insurance policy for that vacation trip if you're renting out for a short time. Otherwise, you have to buy insurance through the RV, like the rental location.
So when I'm looking at insurance to buy, what should I be looking for in that type of insurance? Because you buy insurance to me, like I said a few minutes ago, to protect my assets.
Mhm.
So when I'm looking at protecting my assets, and I'm looking at if I own a home,
Yep,
okay, that's a major asset.
that's liability.
That's a
So,
liability.
well, there's two different ways to protect your assets, right?
Okay.
So for your home, you would want homeowners insurance that protects your home if it got into a fire, something like that. But if you're talking about an RV, for instance, and you're worried about your home, that's if you got sued, you don't want to lose your home in that lawsuit.
Okay.
Right. So that's the difference between the property insurance and the liability.
Right, and I know we're talking two different things, but when
Yeah.
I'm looking at that RV, do I want to make sure that I'm protecting those assets, like my car, which has got car insurance? Okay.
Yeah.
But what about
Are you a business owner? Right.
well, if you're a
Yeah.
business owner, or if you have a 401k,
401k, you wouldn't
retirement.
have to worry about.
Okay,
You wouldn't have to worry about. They're not gonna sue your pension, for instance. You sue you out of your pension or your retirement account
okay,
or your life insurance policy.
Okay.
If you got into a car accident.
okay. So if you don't have enough insurance when you're driving that RV.
Yeah.
Okay, so say worst case scenario, I hit someone.
Mhm.
And I'm not going to go to the worst scenarios. Say they have bodily injury.
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay. How do I need to be protected to protect me and to pay for whatever that person's going to need, like in their medical?
Chances are the vast majority of people do not have enough liability insurance right now.
Okay.
Because I mean, you got to factor in not only all the medical bills for that person or persons. There might be more than one people in the car. There might be more than one car involved, right?
Right.
But you got to have enough protection for their medical bills, plus their time off of work, plus their pain and suffering.
Okay.
And so that the courts, it's not uncommon for people to be driving around with $50,000 worth of insurance, and they own a home, they own a business, they own, and it's just not enough.
I'm going to look at it similar to automobile insurance.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go like 400,000, 800,000.
That's everything. 250,000 per person, 500,000 per accident.
Right. Okay.
Is what is becoming the norm with an auto insurance policy.
Okay.
With an RV, you can sometimes get upwards of $1 million worth of protection. But then from there, then you need to get into an umbrella. Yeah. So but you have to keep in mind, I mean, it's not necessarily, it's about your assets, right? You don't want to lose everything, but it's also what would prevent them from going after your assets in the first place, right? So, especially in the case of an RV, if something bad happens, that thing is very big. It can do a lot of damage.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So like that needs to be protected accordingly. Boats, same thing.
Well, when you say protected accordingly, can you give me more of a definition of that?
Typically, let's say a death occurs as a result of an accident.
Okay.
You're looking at a $2 million lawsuit minimum. So if you don't have an umbrella policy that's going on top of the RV, then you're not gonna have enough.
Okay, I know I have an umbrella policy with you.
Yes.
Okay, all right. So that umbrella policy is how's that gonna protect me under picking up an RV insurance, motorcycle insurance.
The umbrella policy covers in $1 million increments additional liability protection. So $1 million, $2 million, $3 million, whatever you paid for your umbrella. It covers up to that amount, in addition to what the underlying insurance covers. So let's say the underlying insurance on your RV covers $500,000 in liability, and then you have a $3 million umbrella. It goes on that. As long as you don't have more than a $3.5 million lawsuit, you'll be okay.
Okay, yeah, because I know that umbrella just adds so much more protection.
It's a bargain. It's a bargain for what it costs.
Right.
Yeah.
So I know, so if I'm driving an RV and I'm in an accident, and say I have an uninsured motorist accident, it's not my fault, but it's the uninsured motorist, is that going to cover me in that RV?
So that's another, there's 3 different line items for liability protection on an auto or an RV policy. They both work the same here. So bodily injury is the first one. That protects other people.
Right.
If they're going to the hospital, they need chiropractic,
Right.
that kind of thing. If the next line item is property damage. So let's say you have an RV, you hit another car, that car hits another car. I mean, it could keep on going. There's a lot of mass there. So the property damage that you would do damage to, that's the second line item. The third line item of the liability is uninsured motorists, meaning if they hit you and they don't have insurance, or they don't have enough insurance to cover the damage, how much is your insurance company going to come in? So whenever there's a personal injury claim for a client of mine, one of the first, and an attorney gets involved, that is always the first question that I get asked from that attorney is, how much in uninsured motorists do they have?
Right.
And medical payments too.
Okay. Now let's take a little different rule of the RV.
Okay.
Okay. What if I decide to sell everything and I want to live in my RV and travel around the country? Okay.
That's a great question.
Yeah.
That's a great question. Because most people don't think about that. We didn't bring that up. That's a great question.
Yeah.
So, if you sell off everything and you're living in your RV full time, there is actually insurance in place with a couple companies where you can get the same liability protection as if it's your homeowner's insurance on that RV. So that way, if you got sued for, a slip and fall near your RV, or if someone, if someone sued you because they were working in the lot that you're renting out, while your RV's parked, or they, let's say you got defamation case, libel case, something like that. Those things can be covered just like they would be covered with a good quality homeowners insurance policy.
Okay, so I didn't realize that.
Yeah. So
that would be the same thing if I were to move on to a boat, similar to that?
Yeah, you can do that with a boat as well. There are a few companies that will do personal liability the same as a homeowner's policy. Whereas obviously with an auto insurance policy, that liability protection strictly if you caused a car accident, if someone else caused the car accident, and they didn't have insurance, if those types of things, right? But they're not going to cover a slip and fall. It's not part of the coverage.
Okay, so like if I have that RV or I have that nice sized boat, because we were talking the other day about being over 27 feet, I believe you said.
26 feet.
26 feet.
So with boats, that's a little, once you're over 26 feet, that gets very, very difficult to insure. There are a handful of insurance companies that can do it, but the agent's really going to need to know what they're doing, in order to get you properly insured. Now
with boats, you've got some different scenarios going on. I could take a boat, put it on the back of my trailer and haul it off.
And that's
and-
why,
and
that's why.
Moor
Yeah.
it onto and then store it to the side of the house.
Right, or, well, if it's small enough, right,
Yeah.
or, there's storage sheds,
There's
where they take them out
storage,
of the, or, is it being moored in the middle of the ocean, right, and then you're bringing a dinghy onto land or something,
Right.
right, or did you pay for a dock slip, like all these things factor into the insurance, yeah.
But again, I know people who live on boats.
Mhm.
They're moored in a harbor.
Yeah, and so they
In the
need
docks, right.
full-timer liability insurance.
Okay, so is that like your homeowner's insurance, or is it gonna be a little
For
bit
the
different?
liability portion,
For the
yeah, yeah, and then obviously you would want to insure the boat itself from its property damage
Okay.
as well, yeah.
Now, I know because I've had experience being out on sailboats throughout my lifetime,
Okay,
okay? And I've seen boats run into each other. I mean,
that's the biggest one with
the
boat.
the
Yeah.
weather changes, the tides, the currents change.
Whenever I'm talking to a client about boat insurance, inevitably they are worried about their boat and the value that boat has. And by far and away, the biggest issue is not that boat. It's what potentially could hit that boat and what potentially is going to, that boat could hit, right? Whether that be the docks, whether that be a bigger boat, a smaller boat, whatever. And then you also have to keep in mind, what if someone's on that boat, right? And they're now in the water, they drown or something like that. There is a huge amount of liability associated with boats that most people grossly underestimate.
Okay, because I know boats, you and I were talking about being out, let's say on a kayak,
Mhm.
out in the harbor, or you could be on the lake or on a river, okay?
Mhm.
And those boats need to be insured also, or you have to be aware.
Yeah, it would depend on the boat. So like, I have a client who the boats that they have, they feel like they could self-insure for the value of the boats. They can always just buy a new one. They don't last forever anyway. They're,
Mhm.
they're like whatever, 10, 15 years old each anyway. And they're only a couple $1,000s brand new anyway. So they weren't worried about the value of their boat, but they take kids out to do competitive rowing. They need protection from liability. God forbid something bad happens. That's the protection they needed. So that actually was extended from their homeowner's insurance to cover the boat. And then we made sure there was adequate umbrella protection above and beyond that.
Okay, I know when I go to Hawaii, my relatives have a kayak,
Okay.
and we go out on not a kayak, a catamaran.
Oh, okay.
We
Okay.
go on the catamaran, and of course, the kids that go out with us have to wear a vest, because that's the law, okay? But if somebody were to drown accidentally, are you responsible?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
So that
it's your boat.
insurance, yeah,
It's your boat. It's the same as a slip and fall in your house, right? If you have, if you're the one that's responsible, that's ultimately responsible, and something bad happens, I mean, yeah, that lawsuit's going to come your way.
right, because, and when I go out, and of course, when we're in Hawaii, we're out in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, okay?
Right.
And there's all kinds of things in the water, fish, I've seen whales out there, I've
Nice.
seen, all kinds of dolphins will swim by. But if I get hurt and I'm on a boat, that person again, who owns the boat, is going to be responsible.
Ultimately, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, and obviously, you'd want to protect yourself with your health insurance and everything, and I'm sure you do.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, every single owner should be thinking when they're insuring it, what's the worst case scenario?
Right.
and how do I protect myself from that, you know?
And up until the other day when and as I said, I've been sailing throughout my lifetime. We go on a catamaran that is a sailboat also. I never even think about the insurance.
Well, hopefully they do.
I hope they do. So now I'm going to ask you. Now I will ask you. I will definitely ask you.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's important, and especially on boats, you know, that's the worst case scenario is very extreme.
Yeah.
You know, especially, even if they're in the harbor, maybe even more so in the harbor.
Right. And I know right here, we're not that far from a harbor.
Mm-hmm.
We're close to a harbor.
Yeah.
We're close to a harbor that takes in freight. Okay.
Yeah, big freighters.
There's a lot of big boats out in that harbor.
Waiting in line for months on
Well, the line's not that bad anymore. I've seen that miles down on the, but now that it's not that bad. Okay.
Yeah, I don't see it in Newport Beach anymore.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
But we're right near the Long Beach Harbor right now, which will definitely have freight boats. It has cruise ships,
Mm-hmm.
and it has people out there in their recreational boats. Okay, from sailing to motorboats to skiing. So if I'm a skier and I get hurt, do I have to have my own insurance?
I mean, more than like, well, yeah. I mean, because that's the. I mean, yeah. I don't really see how you can pass that off to someone else. I mean, that's going to be your health insurance.
To be your health insurance.
You know, I mean, yeah. I don't see. You know, unless someone came and hit you.
Right. Well, that's a different story. If a boat comes up and hits me.
Yeah. Now that.
Or that guy out on that ski.
Yeah.
On that,
The
jet.
The snowmobile? Sorry.
Like a snowmobile,
Yeah.
but it's a water snowmobile,
the jet skis.
The jet skis.
Okay.
They're on a jet ski. They go so fast, I don't know how they cannot hit somebody at some point.
Yeah.
Even if you're out there just swimming on the shore, they just,
Yeah. And, and same sort of thing, that it's not uncommon for our clients to, go, oh, those jet skis, they're old, if there was something ever bad happened to them, I'd just buy a new one. It's no big deal.
Right.
But it's not necessarily about that jet ski. It's about the liability.
The liability.
Yeah.
You've been using the word liability a lot. So I want to make sure our listeners know exactly what liability is. So
liability would be the potential exposure for you to get a lawsuit. So that's your slip and fall cases. That's that could even be defamation or slander, or dog bites. Are all liability related things, as opposed to, say, a theft or a pipe burst, or a cracked windshield. Those are not related issues, right?
So liability is real important for your home, for your cars, and for what we've been talking about, RVs, for your any form of boat. And now let's go to our last one on our topic for today.
Okay.
Motorcycles.
Yes. Now, motorcycles kind of the exact opposite as boats and RVs, right? In the sense that if something bad happens, the worst case scenario is happening to you, and not you're causing it to a bunch of other things, right? If you run in, if an RV runs into a Lamborghini, that Lamborghini's having a bad day. If a motorcycle runs into a Lamborghini, I mean, yeah, there's damage to the Lamborghini, but the motorcycle is having a bad day. So with motorcycle, that third line item of the uninsured motorist being the money that pays you, if you're the one that's in the hospital, if you're the one that's taking the time off of work, that's the one that's got the biggest potential exposure there. That's the one that you want to be worried the most about. obviously you want to make sure that you don't, lose a house or something in a motorcycle accident either. So the liability is important, but it's not quite as important as uninsured motorist or medical payments.
Is there a difference between a scooter and a motorcycle? I mean, because you see these little scooters that people go around on.
Yeah, I mean, those are like mopeds or whatever.
Mopeds,
Yeah, or
right.
the Vespas or something
Yeah.
like that. Those actually don't have a motorcycle insurance policy at all.
Okay, so,
Those are usually covered by the homeowner's insurance.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
At this conversation today, homeowners insurance covers a whole lot.
Yeah, it does. The same goes for your bicycles, right? Like those electric bicycles, Vespas, mopeds, those are covered, and kayaks as well. Those types of things can be covered by your homeowner's insurance, assuming you have.
So
a
if
good
you,
policy.
so if you have those type things, the homeowner's insurance plus that extra umbrella policy would really, really help you financially.
Yeah,
If something happened.
Yeah, I personally think it's a very, very important financial planning tool that's often overlooked. People spend a lot more time focusing on, a stock and bond portfolio that's in some cases
Well,
significantly less money than the liability.
stocks and bonds are helped to grow your assets, but insurance for me, it's to protect your assets for property and casualty insurance.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So it's the opposite end of the same coin, right?
Yeah,
But for a financial planning tool, I think it's just vastly overlooked, and it's very, very important stuff.
yeah, that's a whole different subject we can go into.
Right? Yeah, it
That's
really is.
totally a different subject.
Absolutely.
Because when I think about financial planning, I would never be thinking about my property and casualty insurance as being part of it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
You can spend all your time on, what about this bond? What about that bond? And the difference might be, what, 1/4% interest,
Right.
over the course of a couple of years. Whereas, if your home turns out to be underinsured by 30% and it burns down, that's a lot more bigger exposure there.
right.
Yeah.
And if you live in almost any area of the United States, property values are just.
And reconstruction costs,
And reconstruction.
because, we've got $6 gas and everything right now. Reconstruction cost is, so before COVID, we had a reconstruction cost estimator on the computer that would calculate, okay, this is how much it would cost the insurance company to replace this or that or the other.
Right.
And that had not been updated in 3 years before COVID started. Shortly after COVID, it got updated. And then about 6 months later, got updated again. And now it's to the point where it's being updated on a monthly basis.
Ooh.
Because the reconstruction cost is going up that.
I'm going to go back to the motorcycles real
Okay.
quickly. And this is another show that we can do. Okay. All right. But on the motorcycles, I've had the experience, and I talked about this the other day with the motorcycle, not the other one, the motorcycle. Okay. Where I'm driving down the freeway at night, and the traffic is not quite bumper to bumper, but it's moving along. Okay. I look in my mirror, my side mirror, and I see this motorcyclist. I'm going.
Zipping by. Yeah.
The way he was driving, I went, oh my God, this guy is going to hit somebody. He looked like he was driving recklessly to me.
Okay.
And sure enough, the car, I'm here, and the car that's here, he hits the passenger side mirror on the outside.
Okay.
He rolled in front of me. okay?
Okay.
Because I saw this, I was already prepared to stop with my brakes. So luckily, I did not roll over him. What would have happened if I would have rolled over him? Because his bike actually rolled
Yeah.
and he fell.
So you should always, all right, the way that insurance works, and you know, the way the law, they follow the law, obviously. But when it comes to, you should always be giving enough safe distance
Right.
where you can stop with enough time. So he's responsible for everything that he did, obviously, that it resulted in him being on the ground in the first
Right.
place. But if you had rolled over him, you'd be responsible for any damages that
Okay.
to his any bodily injury whatsoever, including the damages that happened from him rolling in the
Right.
first place. He'd still end up being responsible.
I mean, I have no idea what happened to the young man. I'm gonna assume it was a young man.
Hopefully he's okay.
I
mean, luckily he didn't get run over by a car.
he was fully suited at least, and he had his helmet on, but if he wouldn't have had the full suit on, he would have never gotten up.
No, jeez.
Yeah, so what happened to him, I don't know. And of course, when there's something like that happens to you, instantly your body goes into the shaking mode, okay? And it's just like, I'll never forget it.
I'm sure.
So when I see a motorcycle coming up the side of me, on either if I'm a passenger or driving, it makes me nervous.
Yeah, no, I mean, for the most part, motorcyclists, I feel like do a good job of keeping their distance, but you see the ones where, I mean, they're just zipping through traffic way too fast.
Yes.
There's no way for anybody to realistically be able to account for them when they're making a lane change or whatever. And I mean, it may or may not be ruled your fault, but I mean, they're going to get the worst of it.
They're definitely going to get the worst of it.
Right.
And you're going to feel horrible.
Yeah.
But they're responsible. So is your homeowner's insurance cover that motorcycle, or does?
No,
they
that would
have
be
to
your
have
auto
discussion?
insurance.
Your auto insurance.
Yeah, and that's your liability portion. So in your case, had you run over him, it would have been that bodily injury lineup.
So if I'm gonna go out and buy a motorcycle.
Okay. That's quite the image.
You never know. Okay. Not likely though. But if I were to go buy a motorcycle. Okay. I call you up because you are my insurance person.
Yeah.
Okay, person. I call you up and say, I just bought
a Harley.
A Harley. Okay. All right. I just bought a Harley.
Please tell me it's got the one.
Yeah, I'm gonna sit up there like that. Right. Okay. So do I add that on to my automobile insurance?
That'd be a separate policy.
It would be a separate policy.
Yeah, just like for each vehicle, you have a different policy for each vehicle.
Right.
Same sort of thing. You would just have a separate policy for that Harley.
Yeah.
And what's the liability protection on that?
All right.
What's the deductible on that?
What's that? Okay, that's what I wanted to know. Because if I'm a weekend warrior, okay, and we all see the weekend warriors out there. All right. Would I have as much coverage if I drove it every day or just for the weekend?
Well, those are two different things. So you would still want the same coverage, right? You want to make sure that your uninsured motorist is very, very high on a motorcycle. But then if you're only driving around a little bit, the mileage rating would reduce or increase your rates depending on how much mileage you use.
Because I expect to see more motorcycles out there or some type of electric vehicle because of the price of gas. Have you seen an increase because of the price of gasoline?
I have seen an increase in Teslas. Specifically Teslas.
Well, but that's not a motorcycle.
No, but I have a lot of clients calling up. I sold the Kia, I got a Tesla, or whatever. It's it's a lot. It's a lot. Okay. But it has not really, I haven't really seen it with other brands of electric cars.
Okay, I was just curious.
But I have not seen it with the motorcycles. It's strictly I've seen it strictly with, you know, downsizing to like a Fiat or something like that, or getting a Tesla.
Getting a Tesla.
Yeah.
Okay. But
Yeah.
that's another subject.
Yes.
Okay. I was just trying to stay with our three toys. Okay.
Yeah. So with, you know, but you know what, I mentioned a couple times the importance of medical payments for motorcycle, but I didn't actually explain what that was. So uninsured motorists, that would cover the liability portion of for someone else who doesn't have enough insurance for your hospital visits, your time off work, your pain and suffering, those types of things. Medical payments, it does not matter whether you are at fault or that other person is at fault. If you needed to go to, you know, and your health insurance had, let's say, a $5,000 deductible, or let's say there was things that you wanted done that were not covered by your health insurance, say an acupuncture visit or a chiropractor or something like that, all those out-of-pocket expenses can be covered by medical payments. So again, with motorcycle in particular, especially if you're looking at the lower end coverages, it's extremely common to see medical payments be zero and uninsured motorists to either be zero or very, very minimal. And that's just simply, you know, they're trying to get the price down. But you really want it the exact opposite way. You want that to cover your full deductible, the medical payments to cover your full deductible, plus whatever you would think that you would need for chiropractic or acupuncture. Because if you get into a car accident, you're going to be using it, you know.
Okay. Well, this has been interesting and fun.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh yeah, it's been a blast.
It has been.
And
it's nice to be able to be in person with people again,
yes,
without the masks on.
I enjoy that. Yes.
Yeah. Right.
Totally. We have
feeling human again. Right.
It feels human again. I talk to Justin at least 3 or 4 times a month.
Oh, easily. Yeah.
Easily.
Yeah.
And this is the first time we've seen each other in over 2 years.
In over 2 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's before COVID. Right before COVID.
Right before COVID.
Right. Because we
met. Yeah, the last.
Yeah, like. Yeah, right. Yeah, like right a week or two before
right.
COVID. Right.
And as I said, Justin and I do talk several times a month. Easily.
Yeah.
We have something to say to each other. And Justin is full of information about insurance. I was once a farmer's insurance agent, so I know what his background is. I know how much schooling he's been through, and I know his passion.
Well, thank you.
And maybe we'll talk about Teslas and those
electric vehicles,
or even those hybrid vehicles.
Yeah, there is a difference.
Because I know when I went to buy a new car, Justin said, well, Janice, your car insurance is going to go down because the new cars have all these safety features. And then I got my bill for my insurance and I called them up and I said, wait a second. And the first thing he said to me was, you bought an electric vehicle or a hybrid? I said, yeah, I did.
Yeah, that was before I was your age.
Now I wish it were an electric vehicle instead of a hybrid, but I still can't complain. So thank you everyone for watching us. I'm going to have Justin back and we are going to talk about those electric vehicles and those hybrids.
Yeah, that'd be great.
It'll be a lot of fun. Thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me.